down to the bottom. Here comes Gisette. They make contact. They touch once, twice, 3 times.
Foul trouble! Oh, no, Rocky into the wall. Big crash front straightaway. Huge crash coming into the tri-oval. No, Rocky up and into the air.
They're beating and banging. Burn on the bottom. Cosman up top.
Kaufman, I think. No! Breyer by 1/1000th of a second. Joseph, no! At the line, Thunhorse pulls the win out at the stripe.
Oh, he saves it. What's going to happen here?
Here comes the canvas. Get your foot down. He's got it. He's got it.
This is going to win.
Deep in the heart of Texas, we are set for round 3 of the Penguin RC Simulation SimCAR Grand Am Championship right here on FTF.GG. I'm Chad Irvine. Here with me in the booth is Sean Butler. Producer tonight is Sean. Is not Sean. Sean's only doing one job tonight. No, we got Zach Johnson doing the producer tonight, and we're set to have a fantastic time. Sean, it was a great round 2, and we're hoping for some more great racing here in round number 3.
Less chaos as well, so we're hoping to have a more of a solid race tonight. A little bit of a thinner field than we had at Watkins Glen, but we still should have a solid race on our hands tonight. Big story for this race, besides all the championship implications and whatnot, is there are no track limits here tonight at Circuit of the Americas. And as you can see just by our static shots here, there is a lot of available real estate on the exit of these corners, and expect these drivers to use up every single bit of it as this race goes.
Yeah, there are no track limits like you mentioned. You do have to watch out, though, for those pesky iRacing slowdowns, because that can be what really kills a run. Here in qualifying right now, though, we're getting set. We're doing 10 minutes here for the prototypes. We're about 3/4 of the way through that now. And then we've got 10 minutes for the GTs, and we got a big field for those guys. So they're going to be using every inch of that track and every second of the time that they are given. But different qualifying format here today, as we got the prototypes running first in a separate part of the session, and definitely going to make things a little bit easier for these guys, because trying to qualify and go flat out the whole time, especially when you're qualifying, and then you got to worry about faster or slower traffic around you. I mean, it makes for a very difficult time.
That's a hectic enough thing to get through during the race. There's all that lap traffic. You can imagine you're coming to a heater lap, and then you got to kill it because you got 2 slow cars ahead of you. But these guys have all the track available to them. Only have 6 prototypes in the field tonight, so plenty of space available for these guys for qualifying. And not so much for the ladder classes here. There's going to be a lot of traffic on the track, but for these guys, nice open spaces here to get a solid lap in. And everyone right now has gotten a lap in. It's about almost a 2-second difference between 1st to 6th right now in the prototype class. So pretty closely contested class with a lot of qualifying still to go. But these guys, for now, are going to enjoy the wide open track conditions until it's time to go racing.
And it looks like the prototypes have been released here. Or maybe not. It looks like they're actually parking at the end of pit road. They're getting ready. Oh, everybody's just lining up here at the end of pit road to get themselves set. That's the line. That's the cue to go out and qualify. And you can tell those GTs are ready to go. But the prototypes still got another minute or so left on the track, and they're ready to just set some flying laps out there. Yeah, like you mentioned, 1.7 seconds from 1st of Savian Ragster back to 6th of Josh Clog. Blake Reynolds right now sits in the 2nd spot, half a second off. And then you got Powers, McDonald, Neese, and Clog. And I think the biggest thing for some of these guys that surprises me is that jump from 1st to 2nd from Ragster to Reynolds is half a second. Everybody else so decently close within a couple tenths of each other back behind them.
And it looks like the GT cars have been released. We have about 10 seconds left in prototype qualifying, so they're going to wrap up the laps they're on. And Michael Gonzalez is going to lead our GT class out there. And already we got, when that's Cody Cosgrove just goes way off in the Mercedes in the turn 1. He's like, I'm just going to let all you guys go and potentially crash everything. So this is going to be chaotic to start GT qualifying for sure. But Michael Gonzalez and company getting out very quickly. So Gonzalez should have a clean lap, and everybody else I don't know about them, but it's going to be the first one to see who can avoid the traffic, as all of the GT cars, except for two of them, are out on the racetrack right now.
I think they're all just trying to build up any little bit of a gap they can. I'm surprised so many drivers went right away. Yes, you only get 10 minutes here, but I mean, you know, you don't want to be held up by somebody in front of you. Of course, the slipstream is always nice, getting that straightaway advantage, but the clean air in the corners is important too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the slipstream, I think maybe whoever came out behind Michael Gonzalez, that's Matt Kingsbury there in the 21 Audi, he may have played that right because he has a little bit of a slipstream to Gonzalez, maybe not too much, but that'll play a factor into his lap. But Michael Gonzalez, like we said, the first car out, he's going to have all the clean air in the world. And then you go back a couple of spots behind them, and there's traffic there. Kevin Fanning has a little bit of a gap, but right behind him is Brock Quinn in the 005, and Spencer Ray right behind Quinn in the 6. So definitely a lot of congestion potentially with these guys trying to get their laps in.
Yeah, and the one thing that kind of surprised me is that we didn't see more groups kind of pack up, whether that be everybody there on the Audi Sports Slovakia team. That's Matt Kingsbury, Marwan Mafta, Michael Frisch, and William Dunbar, those guys. I'm surprised they didn't just form their own little pack. That way you can say, hey, we know who the faster cars are, and we'll put ourselves in order we like, or you know, just teams like that, like them and our design. They have enough cars where they can set themselves up to do a nice little draft train or swap drafting between the four of them, and it just seems like everybody kind of just making it a free-for-all at this point.
It looks like it. I mean, it's every man for themselves out here right now. So no one has completed a lap as of yet in the GT class, so everyone's on their flying laps now. Michael Gonzalez is making his way through the S's. He is the highest ahead of all the GT qualifiers. So that's a good shot right there, just the S's, especially when the green flag comes out. You'll see every single car making their way through those S's, and the S's here are such an important part of this racetrack. One could argue probably the most important, which can either set your lap up for, you know, success or failure, because it's just so technical, and each corner is different, and you got to go in all different speeds. It looks similar to the naked eye, but those corners can't be more different. And then, of course, the straightaways here, as you see them going down, I guess we can call this the backstretch. There's like technically two of these, but this is the longest straightaway on the circuit. Very hard on the brakes here, coming down into the first of two hairpins on this racetrack. And I guess you could say there's maybe three. There's a couple coming up here, but this track is a very good combination of high speed, lots of passing zones, and low speed corners. So whoever can get the brakes right, the throttle input right, and of course their timing of passes right is going to be the most successful here. But right now it's all about the hot lap, and we'll see what type of lap Gonzalez can put down here in the clean air.
Yeah, and you can say, you know, speed is key, but that's true just about any racetrack. But with such long straightaways here, I mean, you can really tell. You're talking about that really long back straightaway. I mean, it's just monstrous compared to the rest of this track, and that's where setting up your passes and getting your momentum built up is really critical. You know, if you don't get a great launch off of those couple of corners, you're going to lose so much time down the straightaway. Even if you're in the slipstream, you know, you might not be gaining, but you're not, or you might not be losing time, but you're also not going to be gaining as quick of a rate as you might be with that perfect launch.
First lap on the board for Michael Gonzalez is a 2 minutes 5.1. So that is so far the fastest lap, as we'll have a bunch of guys now crossing the line. Ray Kingsbury goes second in the GT, and that's interesting. He did have a little bit of a slipstream, did Ray Kingsbury. He's tucked behind Ryan Andrew right now in the 08. So Ray, even with that little slipstream advantage, not as fast as Michael Gonzalez on the first lap.
Yeah, and for a little time perspective, the fastest lap over in the prototypes was 152.8 from Savian Ragster. These guys, Michael Gonzalez set a 205.1, so about a 12 or so second difference between the prototypes and here in the GT3s. And I think that seems fairly reasonable. You know, it's going to make passing difficult, but there's still plenty of ways to do it. But also, you know, it's not just going to be you get past everybody once and that's it for the lapping. You know, you're going to get a decent amount of overtakes here from multi-class interaction.
Absolutely, and we're going to see a lot of passing today, and we're going to see a lot of ascends, if you will. That's probably the most popular term in racing, just going to send it on somebody. We're going to see a lot of those with all these slow speed corners. So, and we have a new pole sitter in GT. Nate Stewart just crosses the line at a 2:04.5. So Nate Stewart in the 04 puts that car on the pole for now. We still got about almost halfway done, a little over halfway done through qualifying. As you see on our ticker, we got about 5 minutes, just over 5 minutes left. And that's really only time to do like 2 laps. I mean, you see the lap times for these cars is 2 minutes. And if you can get 1 lap in as a benchmark, great. But if you got to get another one in, you really got to hustle to get that 2nd lap in.
Coming in tonight's event, over in the prototypes, Blake Reynolds leads the points there, followed by Justin Nasir and Robert Lowry. Here in the GT3s, on the pro side, it's Michael Grillia with Ray Kingsbury and Michael Gonzalez, 2nd and 3rd there. Down AM, it's Jack Belton, Chris Wetz, and Ethan Kurtz. So there might be 2 types of cars on the track, but we got 3 different classes and points categories running here tonight. So those battles going to be raging on all season long as we get set here. This is round number 3 from Circuit of the Americas. And something to note, by the way, as well, is about those points. Michael Grillia is not here tonight from what I can see. So he might end up losing that points advantage that he has if he doesn't show up by the end of qualifying.
Be very surprised if he still holds on to it. Something catastrophic would have to happen to our other contenders in the race. But it might not, be that big of a deal there. I mean, I assume they get at least 1 drop race. We'll have to double check with all of our points rules here. But the more races you participate in, the better. And the more consistent you are, of course, the more points you get. But definitely is going to hurt him not showing up for this race tonight if he's vying for that championship.
Yeah, so these drivers, of course, the second group to go out here in qualifying. We had the prototype set their pole time just a little bit ago with Savian Ragster there. Right now, Nate Stewart, as you can see on top of your timing chart, and he's trying to get that pole position. Unfortunately, no bonus for that spot, but still, starting up front, especially here in the sprint, makes things a little bit easier when you get to the feature. Something I want to mention, by the way, we used to have in this series a invert from the sprint to the feature. Of course, going back to multi-class racing, there will be no invert, and that made things really fun, especially in the sprint race. You got guys jockeying for position, but also trying to set themselves up for a decent starting spot when we got to this hour-long feature.
Yeah, and you'll have guys that are up at the front there, then just slam on the brakes at some point, trying to drift back into the field, trying to get themselves a better starting spot for the main. But you'll also have the guys that are just determined to run up front the whole time. So it was just kind of like a test to see what strategy would prevail. And if I'm in those guys' shoes, I would want to start towards the front when it counts as much as possible. I don't want to be stuck in the middle of the field there. All the calamity could possibly happen. So strategy upon strategy, especially when that was around. But right now, the drivers don't have to worry about any of that. They can just let it rip for the entire duration of each heat and session for this race.
And just to confirm, there will not be a drop week available to these drivers, unfortunately. So that's going to put a devastating blow there for Grillia's championship hopes. But fortunately, he does have time to make it up and hope that some of the guys around him do struggle. Looking back the last couple of weeks, in the GT3 Pro category at least, it's been 2 races. We got 2 events per race. So every single weekend or every single race week has been swept by a driver. Ray Kingsbury has won both the sprint and the feature week 1 from Daytona. And then you got Michael Gonzalez that won both events last week, but consistency is king, and Michael Grillia is showing that with his championship leading spot for the time being. So if these guys can continue to make things or perform well, they can try to at least break away a little bit. The big killer for both Kingsbury and Gonzalez is they've both had a finish in each of the sprint races. Very far behind the rest of the pack. Gonzalez back at Daytona finished 30th in the GT3 category compared to Ray Kingsbury at Watkins Glen last week. He finished 24th there in the sprint. So consistency is key, and you see that with Grillia. He's got the P9 in the sprint at Daytona, and that was his worst finish. The others were P2, P3, and P4 the rest of the events. So you want guys to just have some consistency, keep finishing up front, as drivers now are looking to cross the line and turn their final times in.
And you were looking at the point standings there a little bit, as you were mentioning. Consistency is the absolute most important thing in this. You can win, but if you follow up your wins with like a 25th or 30th place finish, it's not really going to help you to get that championship. And Guerrilla by far has been the most consistent driver in the GT3 class, but unfortunately, as you said, he's not going to make this race tonight. So that's definitely going to hand the lead over to either Ray Kingsbury, Michael Gonzalez, or maybe even Matt Kingsbury. Matt Kingsbury is 5 points behind Michael Gonzalez for 4th place in the GT3 standings. So who knows? We could have one of those 3 guys, Kingsbury, Gonzalez, or Matt. I almost said Ray Kingsbury twice. So Ray and Matt Kingsbury are both there. So we could have a Kingsbury or a Gonzalez leading the GT3 points by the time this is said and done today.
Cars starting to take to the grid. Let's take a look at it. Front 3 rows are all going to be the prototypes with Ragster and McDonald. And then row 2 is going to be Blake Reynolds and Matthew Powers, followed by Dan Neese and Josh Klog there, row number 3. 4 is going to be Nate Stewart, the first of the touring cars. And then you got Michael Gonzalez, Ray Kingsbury, and Kevin Fanning wrap up your top 10.
So we look down the next set of drivers. Michael P. Frisch will be rolling off in 11th, 5th in his class. Then we got Matt Kingsbury rolling off in the 12th position, Cody Cosgrove 13th, Taylor Carroll 14th, Marwin Mofta 15th, Jake Fisher in the 16th spot, Spencer Ray 17th, David Bush 18th, Brian Sohn in 19th, and Alexander Ball will be rounding out the front 20.
In row 11 on the inside, Tim Brokaw, followed by Justin Robichaux. Then you got Brock Quinn and Towel Owen, followed by Chris Wetz and Robert Kennedy. Then Ryan Pandisco and William Dunbar. Then Shait Vitas and Gary Freeman Jr. there on row number 15.
And there's our last 2. Ryan Andrew and Jonathan Taylor will be rounding out our 32 car field here tonight.
And you saw 2 colors there on the ticker when we got to the touring cars, and that's going to be the blue for the pro category and the red for the AM. You can notice those on the car by the corresponding banners, both on the windscreen as well as the number plates and the end plates on the wing. So we'll keep you updated throughout the season on those point standings between the 2 classes. They're all running together in this interesting way that the scoring works here in the series. They basically have the entire GT category set up to run as their own points. So if you finish, the 4th overall GT3, but you're the first pro, you still only get the P4 overall points. So you could technically win the GT3 category there if you're an AM, and still fit it and get more points than the pro, but you're still considered that AM class. So separate points, but still the same scoring table for them. This is a look at the prototypes working their way. Smaller field than normal here tonight with Savy and Ragster there on the pole. And with the way turn 1 works here, I think Blake Reynolds is going to be happy to be starting on the inside there on row number 2.
Oh, yeah. So it's all a matter of who gets through turn 1 the best and the safest, if you will. So notice the field. If you're watching this for the first time, you see, why is the field so separate? So that is just so they have as much space between the classes as possible. And you see the prototypes way out ahead. They got about a 10-second difference between the prototypes and the GTs. So that's going to be the main 2 races there. Overall, yeah, it's good if you get a good overall finish, but the main thing is the class finishes. So if you can wrap up a few of those that are very good, more points for you you'll get. But the pace car is going to be ducking off here for the prototypes, so we're getting ready to get going here at COTA.
Through the final quarter they come here on the pace lap. Of course, we've got that 20-minute sprint to start things off here tonight, and green flag is out and away we go. Drivers come across the line to start the clock, and they work their way up. This is a huge climb up the hill. You see it there to turn number 1.
Now already we got cars going all over the place. Blake Reynolds gets swung wide there going into turn number 1. He had Matthew Powers glancing underneath that car, but everyone's going to fall in line here. So the prototypes will get through clean. And if we can go back to the GTs, they're coming out of turn 20 to start their race. And Nate Stewart is getting them all started back there.
He revs it up and away he goes. He's still side by side though. Michael Gonzalez there with him. And they're both going to be side by side going up the hill into turn number 1. And something we're going to have to watch out for here on corner exit. Track limits not strictly enforced, so they will not be they'll not be fighting with the, there's not going to be any instant limits. The only thing they have to deal with is the iRacing automatic stewards giving them time penalties. So throughout the race, we'll see drivers maybe running a little bit wide on exit just so they can get the foot down.
And it looks like everybody got through turn 1 cleanly in both classes, which is good. And we actually had a lead change there. You saw Michael Gonzalez do the crossover move on Nate Stewart out of turn number 1. So he puts his Mercedes ahead of the BMW. And right now, this is going to be Michael Gonzalez's race unless they can use the slipstream to get to him. But right now, a 3-car breakaway for the GT class.
Yeah, and it didn't take long for for Gonzalez to get by Stewart. And something that it was interesting to watch was, it's early and it's also only in the sprint race. So drivers, we've got a prototype round. That's going to be, Josh Clogg going around there. So he gets back underway and going the same direction. But, I think that you'll see drivers, especially early on, especially in the sprint race, drivers conceding position early just to make sure that they keep their car intact.
Man, that was a weird incident there for Clogg. As we have another one that goes around. Looks like that's Matt Kingsbury.
Yep, that's the Audi Sport Slovakia 21 of Matt Kingsbury as he rejoins safely side by side there. Triple one of Tim Brokaw on the R Design team, and they're going to be battling for a position here, and they got some pressure from behind from Cody Crosgrove as well.
Here they come into, this is turn number 15, that sharp left-hander. They're 3 wide behind him, as you see back there coming off. So the GT car is a lot more chaotic than our prototype class. So Savion Raxter will lead lap 1 of the race overall. But this is where all the spicy racing is back here.
Yeah, that's the benefit of having such a deep field here in the GT3s. Looks like we might have a replay from that incident a moment ago. Let's see if we can't get a look at that.
So this is
going to be the incident with Clogg.
It looks like he locks the brake. Oh, he just gets loose coming out of turn 13.
Yeah, he just gave it too much gas there on exit, and the back end snapped out.
And into the tires, so that's not going to hurt too bad. Here's the Kingsbury incident. Just got way too hot on the brakes.
I don't know if he missed his braking marker or was expecting the car in front to go deeper, because he was right behind there, but that was great avoidance there from Matt.
Definitely was. So he'll take the time hit as opposed to a physical hit of a wall or a tire barrier. So Matt's a good driver. He can get back up through there, no worries. But definitely not how he wanted his race to start for sure.
Yeah, without that invert that I mentioned a little bit ago, he's just going to want to get as many positions as he can. That way, once we get to the hour-long feature race here in a little bit, the main event of the night, so to speak, he's just starting up as far forward as he can. He's late on the brakes once again, Matt Kingsbury is, and he's just all over the cars in front of him. He wants to make up every position. The last time that they went through the last corner that they entered, he was just right up on the back of Brian Son, and Brian finally just said, all right, I don't want to fight this, so you keep on going. But so here we go as we watch the prototypes work their way up the hill once again. That's the 66 of Blake Reynolds, and we've seen him all over iRacing. He was in the Off-Road Championship Series where he was driving I think it was the Pro 2s or the Pro 4s, and now we see him in the prototypes. We've seen him over on the NASCAR side of things as well. So, man, this guy's very multidisciplined.
Blake's had a good year on iRacing, of course. Started it out with winning the iRacing 24 Hours of Daytona with Dead Zone Racing with me, Alan Bowes, Garrison Hogan, Blake Bryant. I'm going to throw my name in there, but Blake did most of the heavy lifting in that.
You bring that up to pat yourself on the back, right?
I tried to, but no, Blake and Alan definitely did most of the heavy lifting in that race. Those guys are insane. But Blake's having a solid year in Coke too, so he's been having a good year in iRacing so far. So it's been very successful for him. As we look back here, this is heading into turn number 1, and this is what the racing term of a gaggle is. As we're looking right now at David Bush in that purple Mercedes, looking up the inside of Spencer Ray the number 6 action Apex Action Porsche. And this is all for position. You see Matt Kingsbury right there as well, still trying to make his way back up through the field in that red and yellow Audi behind them. So definitely very hard to pass here, as you mentioned in the pre-race. So Matt is, I guess, getting a first-hand look at what he's got to do to make his way through the field. And you see on board with Kingsbury, just has to set his moves up so well in the S's. You almost have to be 2 turns ahead to get this run that he's trying to get here on Busch right now, as he looks to the inside through this kink here, and they work their way down into turn 11.
Yeah, it was a flat-out kink, and he made it work well. He made the car stick and sent it up there. And races like this on a track, with such elevation changes and all the speed differences and everything, it makes multi-class racing especially, but just touring car racing in general, makes so much more fun to watch, where you can see how the Mercedes might have to alter their braking point to get around a Ferrari who can brake a little bit later, but certain cars get better launches off the corner as well. And just so much fun to watch how you have to drive different cars, especially around a competitor, in something completely different.
Absolutely. So these cars, they might look the same, but they handle differently, as we have just one going off right in front of Kingsbury. There's contact. That's Marwan Mafta in the Cisco Audi. I wonder what happened there. That was a unique scenario. Could have been a lot worse, but everyone's still going.
And I believe, those two are teammates. They're in the same Discord call, so they must have had to have seen that one coming. I mean, they're also teammates over on the Rallycross side as well. I've seen them run together numerous times. This is a replay of that incident, and maybe some netcode contact there that forced Marwan wide, and then maybe Matt just overdrove the corner as well to kind of add insult to injury for the both of them. But I think there's no contact there, no harm, no foul, as we get back to live action, watching them climb up the hill towards turn 1 once again.
Well, fortunately, this isn't the main event, but as we were talking about earlier, it still pays points, so you want to make sure that you're finishing these races consistently to get as most points for your championship as you possibly can. So bullet dodged by the teammates there, but definitely not how they wanted that corner to go at all. So right now, everyone's still making their way up through the S's here as you're looking back up towards the front.
And something that I've just noticed, we just had a new fastest lap of the race set by the 24th running GT3 at 2:08.9. Nobody else has technically set an official lap yet. Just the off-track counter is just racking it up.
Yeah.
And we'll probably see about 1 billion incident points by the end of the night for that.
I mean, it's like we're at Spa or whatever during the 24. I mean, people just rack up incidents in that race too. So might as well just take advantage of the no track limits while you can, as we see just guys are just everywhere, just going into the gravel or into the runoff areas. They're taking any advantage they can. And this battle is just heating up right now. Spencer Ray, there you see in the Apex Action blue and white Porsche, gets taken over by Matt Kingsbury. Jacob Fisher right there in the 184 Mercedes just ahead of them. And there goes Kingsbury trying to go around on the outside going into turn 14. And it's getting all clogged up here out of 15. And David Busch has joined this battle right there in the 32 Mercedes.
Speaking of a clog, Josh Clog, unfortunately, looks like after his incident, he has dropped out of the sprint race. So he's going to be set to start 6th there once we get to the feature. But yeah, these guys are, working their way, ticking these laps off as we're coming up to somehow not even at halfway yet. It feels like with all the action we've had, we'd be a little bit closer to the end.
You would think. We're at 11 minutes remaining now of a 20-minute race, so we're close. But there's just battles happening everywhere right now, as we see. This is for the lead. Nate Stewart, Ray Kingsbury, Michael Gonzalez here. Ray Kingsbury is your new leader in that Gulf Racing color number 25 Mercedes. Though, of course, the Penguin RC Simulations machine getting out to the front there in the 25. Stewart in the BMW, and Michael Gonzalez right behind them in the shoppenguinrc.com Mercedes entry. So Nate Stewart is just stuck in between a couple of Mercedes there leading this field.
Now, do you think that since it's the Penguin RC SimCAR Touring Championship, do you think that, since Penguin's sponsoring it and they sponsor his car, do they give him like a little extra nitrous there, or?
I mean, you got to think that is, the case. The BMWs are pretty quick here in a straight line in these cars, and you got to think they gave a little extra juice. As up front for the prototypes, you see Blake Reynolds has made his way by Sabian Ragster. So move Blake, and again, the Penguin car is just dominating everything, so they're leading both classes now.
Yeah, they got the extra nitrous or something there.
There's something.
A little extra fuel, but no, overall, these guys just, I mean, I think that for some of these guys, the key to their success so far has just been keeping it clean. We saw that massive incident last week where a bunch of the guys that were running up front ended up having to drop to the back, and you know, just that was a wiggle there on quarter exit from Kingsbury. Stewart tried to take advantage, he cannot, but Gonzalez right up that tailpipe there for Stewart and Gonzalez.
Coming up to the last couple of corners here out of turn number 18. Stewart looking to the outside of Kingsbury. Little contact there. And that's going to send Stewart up the racetrack and Gonzalez to the second spot and 3 wide almost. And Michael P. Frisch has joined this group here in the Audi, the Cisco Audi behind them. So now Frisch has joined this battle as we're coming down to 9 minutes left in the first heat.
Yeah, Frisch is just licking his chops. He's all over this saying, you guys keep fighting, that's okay. It looks like Stewart has decided, you know what, I'm going to let you guys fight a little bit. I'll sit back here, relax, and just kind of get myself set up for the big feature coming over. Maybe he has some damage because he slowed down considerably here in the last couple of corners. He's lost a good chunk of time. He's now over a second back.
Well, he might have lost a little bit of a rear tire too in this. I saw he was really loose coming out of turn 1 right there. So the rears may be starting to go on that first floor racing BMW is up towards the front of this group here. It is again another 3-car breakaway. And Michael Frisch, he is known for saving his tires, so he's all over the back of second. As we look back up front here, Savian Raxter passing Blake Reynolds again for the lead. So this battle is just heating up again.
Yeah, the interesting thing about this course, you'll see it so many times, is, you know, you get on the inside of somebody, you try to make the pass, and if you can't get clear, then you have to pass on the right, and that's going to be the outside. It's going to give you the inside on the next corner. You just switch back so many times. It feels like here at Circuit of the Americas, and once you try to get on the inside of somebody, next thing you know, they're on your inside, and you can't even get the move done. So still tucking in line. Ragster peeks out of line, can't do it under braking. As they work their way down one of the heavier braking zones, as now they go down this long straightaway, and you see the just freight train of GT3s there that's up in front of them.
Oh yeah, so they're going to have a lot of these cars to go through. We got a Lamborghini there, Ferrari, Porsche they're passing. So here comes the slipstream down there for Ragster. He's going to look into turn number 12. Reynolds is going to try to fight along on the outside. Now Reynolds has the preferred line going into turn 13 and 14.
And I think that for Reynolds, that's one of those areas where not having the track limits enforced, you can be a little more aggressive. You know you can run wide.
Right here.
And you just stuff like that. Yeah, you just get the power down so much better when you can take that wide exit. And, that's going to force him very wide as the track switches back. And are we going to see Ragster back to the front? Wow.
It's like Max Verstappen last year. And we have another crash. It's Jake Fisher off the racetrack in the 184 Mercedes there. Right as the leaders go by, so that's not what the leaders want to see. There's more lap traffic here as we look at more of these guys. Dan McDonald navigating through lap traffic. Don Neese is back here, as you see in that black prototype, trying to get by these lap traffics vehicles. So this is not easy, as now everybody is now catching up to the rear of this GT field. So this is going to be another skill in this race, is who can navigate the lap traffic the best and keep their track position. And right now, Blake Reynolds, because of the lap traffic, has opened up almost a 2-second lead on Ragster.
Yeah, here's a look at what happened just a moment ago.
Spencer Ray.
The 6 car. Yep, Spencer Ray just ended up losing the back end, and fortunately enough, able to get it out of the way. No contact with anybody else as they continue to work their way around. And
here's Fisher, just lost the back end as well. That's coming up to turn 19, I believe.
Fisher was putting on a really good show. This is just moments ago.
This is
maybe some contact here for some of the guys up front. Oh no!
Who is that? Is that the? Can't tell who that was in the BMW. Was that the 38?
Yeah, it's Justin Robichaux.
Justin Robichaux in the 93. So that was not beneficial at all.
We had another instance here as well.
Yelling at us.
And that's the 73 there of Dan McDonald that lost the back end of the car coming up over. That's turn 8 there.
Back live here, though. Savian Raxter has reeled in Blake Reynolds again. Now they're negotiating more lap traffic as they work their way through here. So this.
Oh, and that was uncomfortable. I feel like for everybody involved, they were just about 3 wide there on corner exit with the 2 prototypes and the Audi Sport Slovakia car I believe that was Kingsbury in there as well.
Oh man, so we're coming down to, we're under 5 minutes now. You see in the top left-hand corner of your screen the first timer of this heat race. Again, 20-minute race. We have another hour-long main event after this one. But we were talking about in the beginning of the race, this race pays points too, and it is crucial to get back-to-back good finishes. As we see here, this is the battle for third in the GT class. Michael P. Frisch in the Audi. Ray Kingsbury in the Mercedes. Near contact coming through the S's, but Frisch is able to get the move done.
Yeah, and you see that Kingsbury trying to fight his way back around. I think that maybe his setup, he's just a little bit uncomfortable. He just doesn't seem completely comfortable in that car for Kingsbury. He's dropped a couple of positions here. We typically see him right up there at the front, and he's already 4 seconds back of Gonzalez.
Well, he'll still get a solid top 5 finish in class, which is what you want, which will help his, points out. If they, like I said, if they can get back-to-back good finishes, top 5 finishes in class tonight, that'll do wonders for your points race. So we had a car just blow up on pit road, I believe. It was Josh Clogg who got towed there. So as we mentioned earlier, Clogg involved in an early incident. So his early race is done. He'll have to wait to get into the main. But right now, more trouble here. That is Alexander Ball, I believe. No, it's David Busch. Busch was a little bit slow there.
One of the benefits, I think, to the track, we talked about drivers using it to their advantage with no instant limits, no track limits, but also with them having the ability to be able to run wide. If you lose the back end like that, if you spin it off the track, it's much better than, say, Watkins Glen or numerous other American tracks where, if you're more than like 20 feet off the racing surface, there's just a guardrail there. Oh, there's contact there. That's Brian Sohn.
Oh, man.
And somebody else just piles in there as well.
Jake
and then another
Fisher.
Car gets into it as well. Who's in one of the Artisan cars? Brokaw involved. Wow. Everybody losing the back end here and just piling into that incident.
And we mentioned all the slow speed corners at this track. The number one thing is getting out of them, and that can really chew up your rear tires if you're too hard on the throttle coming off these corners. So these guys have to be aware of that and save their tires. Let's take another look here. So going into, I believe this is turn 13 right here. Just, I don't know, it looked like Busch just hopped the curb a little bit there, and Fisher just plowed right in.
And I think that part of what helped play into that as well is Brian Sohn didn't wait for cars to get past for him to try to rejoin. He rolled forward just a little bit, and unfortunately that allowed somebody to pile into him. He did have to take a tow there, as you just saw. So he took his way back down pit road. Another car, I believe, with a meatball flag down pit road as well.
Jake Fisher, as we saw, heavy left front damage on that Mercedes. So you can imagine that this is not the way Jake wanted his heat race to go. So he is in his stall. I got to presume that his race is finished until the main.
And you just saw the move right there, by the way. That was Kingsbury getting overtaken by Taylor Carroll. They're still battling in it as Kingsbury's fighting back, and Carroll just up the inside. Can he get the move done here? Kingsbury tries to power around. He runs very wide.
I mean, running very wide here with no track limits is going to be a benefit to the people getting past on the inside, especially. But what a crossover move by Carroll, and he's going to get the move done. Smooth the 420 Porsche into P4 in the GT class.
Yeah, this race developing into something that'd be really interesting. We only got a minute left, so have to wait and see how things play out. But I think that if this tells us anything, it just means it's going to be a fantastic race when we get to the hour-long feature.
I mean, we could have just a quick little update as we're on the final lap here as Blake Reynolds takes the white flag. A quick little update in the AM class right now. Marwin Mofta in the 191 is your leader, but Jonathan Taylor is about a second and a half behind. So that could shape up to be an interesting race there for the AM class win. But up at the front here, they are still going at it right now all around where David Busch is. And this is all the battle for the 11th position.
And I believe, I have to go back and check, but I believe that Jonathan Taylor started the sprint here, shotgun on the AM field. He was starting dead last, and he's already worked his way up. Now, as you mentioned, fighting with Marwan for the win in the AM category.
Car looks clean too, coming through the field. That is not an easy task here.
So white flag lap, fantastic battle there involving the 32 of David Bush. Him and Ryan Andrew back and forth. They try to switch it back again, almost contact, but they get things sorted out. Oh yeah, they get settled out line of stern here through this sector for the final time in the sprint.
Spencer Ray there also in that number 6 Porsche right there. 4 cars really vying for this 11th position. Alexander Bell in that 12 Ferrari doesn't want to give it up, but he's got a mirror full of Ryan Andrew right now, as Spencer Ray is going to take the 13th spot away from Bush.
And continuing to battle. Only a handful of corners left. Who gets better launch here? You might have some slipstream back up to the front, though. Here's a look at Blake Reynolds. He's gotten by Savian Ragster and finally has cleared him by a considerable margin. So by over 2 seconds here at Circuit of the Americas, Blake Reynolds takes the checkered flag and wins the prototype category.
And a little further back, Taylor Carroll just passed Ray Kingsbury.
Huge contact here, by the way, in that ball group that we were talking about. Alexander Ball is around. He got spun, and several more cars were involved in that. So that's unfortunate there to see at the end of the race. Here is the 75 of Michael Gonzalez down the front straightaway, and he is set to take the checkered flag. He is going to win there in the GT3s.
And here's Marwan Mafta, Jonathan Taylor. I don't think he's close enough to get to him for the AM class victory. Well, he just made up a lot of time there, so Taylor's going to have a great turn 20 to have a chance. And I think Mafta's got this one off the final corner. Marwan Mafta's going to take the AM class victory, and that will do it for our initial heat race.
Yeah, that was a fantastic bit of racing here. This is look at that incident involving Ball. One of the cars that that was just a chain reaction. I mean, I couldn't tell who that third car was in line, but they just started the freight train involving Marwan Mafta to get Ball around, and unfortunately, that's oof.
So that's Ryan Andrew in that white and purple car. Spencer Ray back there. David Bush just runs into the back of Spencer Ray, who runs into the back of Ball, and that's what set that. I don't want to. This is going to sound bad. Gets that ball rolling, but nonetheless, thank you for laughing, Zach. I appreciate that. But that's how that wreck would happen, but not how these guys wanted the race to go at all. And initial reports from our drivers here, Ray Kingsbury specifically, quote, "My rears were screaming." So my assumptions were correct that these tires are getting chewed up on this surface here, as we have our sprint race results on screen now.
Yep, Reynolds followed by Ragster, then Powers, McDonald, and Nice. Your top 5 prototypes. The 6th there was in class was Josh Clogg. He unfortunately finished multiple laps down after contact. Then you see Gonzalez, Stewart, Frisch, Carroll, and Kingsbury wrap up the top 10 overall, and all those guys were in the pro class.
And we'll keep on going down here. Cosgrove will come home 11th. Kevin Fanning 12th. Matt Kingsbury 13th. Winner of the AM class, Marwan Mafta, will finish 14th overall. Jonathan Taylor 15th overall. Second in class, Ryan Andrews, Spencer Ray, David Bush, Chris Wetz, and Brock Quinn will round out the front 20.
21st going to be Tim Brokaw and Justin Robichaux. Then Ryan Pendisco and Robert Kenny, followed by Shai Vethas and Tal Owen. They're 26. Started out with a great run, had some great moves throughout the field, and they're in 26th. Then 27th is Dunbar, then Gary Freeman, Alexander Ball, and Jake Fisher. Let's wrap up there in 30th position.
And our final two, the Brian Sohn, as we saw, got involved in an accident early, and as we mentioned, Josh Clogg in the prototype early accident relegates him to 32nd and last in the initial heat race.
So drivers now have about a couple minutes left here in their warm-up, and this is critical. You get some drivers that are trying to get more adjusted to what the car feels like on a heavier fuel load. So hopefully these guys use the most of it and get adjusted to it. And with that, just a couple minutes away, we'll be back. But with a hour-long feature here from Circuit of the Americas. But stick around for that. We're going to have some great racing here on FTF.GG. And back to Circuit of the Americas we come with Nate Stewart here wrapping up his couple of laps in the warm-up session. And it's so much fun just to watch these guys race. And now they get this little extra bit of practice here, Sean. And what you're really trying to do is feel out the car and heavier fuel load. So what really changes, you think, with when you put more weight in the car?
Well, the way you have to run it changes because the more fuel that is in these cars, the looser or more oversteer you'll get in them. So these guys really have to see how they're going to handle out of the low speed corners. They know how they're going to handle on the straightaways and the high speed corners, of course, but when they put the throttle down, that is really going to be the gauge on how your lap goes in this race. And we saw, especially through the S's too, the more fuel in it, the more fuel that sloshes around in these cars, it'll kind of maybe upset them. The more you burn the fuel off. So the more fuel that gets burned off in these things, the more tight or understeery these cars will become. So they're just seeing how they're going to handle in the beginning part of the race and see how they can set themselves up to be optimal handling wise, and also how to save their tires better for the end of the race.
Yeah, and tires can be so critical, especially at a track like this where you have so many slow corners and twisty bits that it really makes keeping your tires cool, keeping everything in the tread and everything on the tires. You can try to make up so much time that way. Especially, I wonder maybe if with the way that this track is set up, you might see somebody maybe taking one tire, because you can do that to save time in the GT3s. Maybe see some weird strategy when they get to the pit stop and try to see what they can do.
Yeah, I mean, if you take one tire, you might as well take two on the same side, because it's going to take the same amount of time pretty much to take two tires on each side. But you never know. I mean, we've seen weird stuff happen in these races before, and if they want to go ahead and try the one tire strategy, the oh so common one tire strategy, they can do that. But definitely going to be a big roll of the dice for sure, as we got our starting lineup here to go through for the main event.
On the pole is Blake Reynolds by virtue of winning that sprint just moments ago, and then Savian Rags there. Powers and McDonald on row number 3. Dan Neese, and I believe that they will promote Josh Clogg back up into the 6th position overall. But then you got Michael Gonzalez and Nate Stewart, Michael Frisch and Taylor Carroll, followed by Ray Kingsbury there, wrapping up the top 10 unofficially.
11th place, Cody Cosgrove will roll off 11th. Kevin Fanning 12th. In row 7, Matt Kingsbury, Marwin Mafta will be the first driver in the AM class to roll off. He'll start at the front of that field. Jonathan Taylor 15th, Ryan Andrew in 16th. Row 9 is Spencer Ray and David Bush. And row 10 is Chris Wetz and Brock Quinn.
Row 11 is going to be Tim Brokaw and Justin Robichaux, then Ryan Pandisico.
Forget it.
We're working on it. I'm getting there. Robert Kennedy. And then you got Shachit Vitaldas and Tal Owen in row 13. Then William Dunbar and Gary Freeman. And Alexander Ball and Jake Fisher on row number 15.
And the two drivers that had to retire early from the heat race, Brian Sohn and Josh Clogg, will round out the field into the main.
And there you see such a large gap from the prototypes back to the GTs, and
even bigger gap than the initial race. It was 10 seconds. Now it's 12 for this one.
Yeah, and I think that, a gap that big doesn't make much of a difference. You are already almost the entire front straightaway away from the cars in front of you, but
you just get lapped quicker, so
Yep, exactly. Maybe gives the GTs a little less time to get spread out before they get eaten up by these prototypes, because with all these long straightaways here, it definitely switches things up a little bit, makes it a little more interesting. And here they come around the final corner onto the front straightaway behind the pace car for the final time. Green flag is out, and Blake Reynolds gets a fantastic jump on the field.
And look at this, side by side between the teammates. Here comes Dan McDonald looking to shoot it 3 wide. I'm sorry, that's Dan Neese right there. And my Dan's mixed up. And how about this send back
4 wide? Here?
4 wide, lots of contact, and that allows Blake Reynolds to get out to a huge lead.
We'll have to see a replay. That was an absolute dive there.
That was Dan. Who was that? Was that
I
Clog?
think that was Clog that made that move. But here's the GT3s as they get themselves settled out, almost 3 wide there for a moment. But the front 2 clean and the front 3, oh, big wiggle there. I think that was Kingsbury with the wiggle. He's going to drop back a couple spots as he gets overtaken by Taylor Carroll.
Oh, we got one around in turn 1. That's Gary Freeman in the 666 Ferrari. There's a little bit of an there's a little bit of a contact there, almost for last in the GT3 class, but he's able to spin it around to keep it going. So he's already got a significant deficit to make up here. But back at the front of the GT cars, Michael Gonzalez, just how they started out with the heat race, is going to be leading us through the S's. Nate Stewart and Taylor Carroll, 1, 2, 3.
And it's so interesting to watch these guys early on because...
Oh, big send by Kingsbury back there. He's still
there. He made it stick. I'll have to go back and see if there was contact there as well. These guys, they're just trying to make moves early on when everybody's bunched up. Not going to be any more safety cars. Field's not going to bunch itself up, so you got to make these moves early. He's peeking to the inside. He thinks about going outside. Now he's going to send it along the outside, but I don't think it's going to work. That is not the corner you want to be doing that. And maybe now he can get the crossover. Not yet. He's going to be around the outside once again.
Oh, a little bit of contact there between he and Cosgrove, and they are going at it. It's only lap 1. Into 14, Cosgrove gives him the space. They're rubbing on each other out of 15. That is too close for comfort for those guys.
No, I'm not entirely certain, but I think that those guys might just be having a little bit of fun with each other. They are in the same Discord call. They're both Last Lap Motorsports teammates, sister teams, I do believe. But yeah, they're running pretty hard. You can race as hard as you want, yeah, as long as you don't take out your teammate. But now we've got another car getting involved in the fight there. And I believe that's Kevin Fanning that's joining them.
It's the 77 of Jonathan Taylor. He's leading the AM class right now, the Pro-Am division right now. So he's knocking on the door of 7th position here in the overall GT3 class. A good run so far for Jonathan. But there's just a line behind Cody Cosgrove in this. We got Kingsbury Taylor, Kevin Fanning is there, Marwin Mofta is there, Spencer Ray. So all those guys vying for the same spot here. So we'll see how long this traffic jam is going to be up for.
Yes, definitely. Watching these guys is going to be interesting to watch just because of how hard they're fighting. This is you mentioned that's a fight for the overall lead there between Ragstar and Reynolds. They were battling most of that sprint as well. I think that if you're Ragstar, it just comes down to tire management. That's what cost him there at the end of the sprint.
More trouble. Ryan Andrews on pit road here early on in the GT class. So we'll have to see what happened to him a little bit later on. As I'm looking back there, it looks like he was just going through the S's. Oh, and there's a lot of issues around him, and we'll get a replay of that eventually here. But he went around in the S's, got a hold of the curbs a little too much, and that sent that car around. So we've got a 3-car battle now for the lead pretty much here, with Ragstar leading, Reynolds in second, but here comes Dan McDonald in the 73 to join.
Fuel capacity is reduced in this race, so everybody will have to make at least one pit stop. Unfortunately, though, if you're Ryan Andrew, it's too early for that to be a strategy decision, as he's been in his box for quite some time.
For the lead again, Saban Ragstar takes and he gets loose and he slides off the corner. Blake Reynolds is going to take the lead. He took the defensive line into turn number 1, overcooked it a little bit, and Reynolds is able to get through. So move Reynolds to the lead here, Dan McDonald to second, and Ragstar is going to drop to 4th.
Yeah, and that battle kind of fizzled out pretty quick as it was looking so juicy for quite some time. Let's take a look back here at a replay just a moment ago. This is what you're talking about with Ryan Andrew, and multiple cars hitting the curb, getting themselves launched, and he hits the other curb there. That's going to bring probably a toe link or two, and unfortunately, I think he had to take the toe as well. Yes, he did. So
if you see that little yellow thing that sticks out right where the rumble strips are, that is a lot more elevated than the rest of them. I can't really tell what that Lamborghini was. I think that might have been Chris Wetz in the 71. I'd have to double check that, but those things, I get the bad term for them is called sausages, and there's another term for them in racing that I'm not sure. There's the replay with Saban Ragstar getting a little loose out at the exit of turn 1. But man, if you hit those things, as we saw what happened to Ryan Andrew, they can really mess your car up. As right now for the lead overall, we got a big battle going on. Blake Reynolds has a mirrorful of Dan McDonald.
And not only of McDonald, but Nice as well. I mean, they're all still right together. That's, I don't want to say surprising with the talent pool that we have here, but it's just so much fun to see. Yes, we're only 5 minutes into the race, but nobody's letting anybody get away.
I mean, this is I don't want to say this from their first race, but this is the most cars we've seen racing at once in the prototype class since the start of the race. So good job by these guys to keep it clean. So 3 cars breaking away from the prototype field there. You see Saving Raxter making his way back up. I'm going to assume he's going to get back up there. He's just too quick not to get back up there. But right now, Reynolds making his way through 1 and 2, and he has been the car to beat by far all season. But we'll see what Dan McDonald can do, as he's still right on his tail going into the S's.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder sometimes here, seeing Blake consistently at the front of the field, how much do you think is him just being a damn good driver versus, somebody making a really good setup, since these setups are open?
Well, I mean, Blake is a good driver no matter what setup you put in there for him. You could probably put the absolute opposite racetrack setup, as you have another one off back there.
That's Ryan Bendisio.
Ryan Bendisio in the 63 Mercedes. So not a good look for him right there as he makes his way through the grass a little bit here as he gets it going. Get a quick replay. Let's see. He's holding up a lot of these cars here. Going out of turn 15, just loses it right in front of a pack of cars and doesn't get hit by anybody. Good job by everyone to avoid.
Yeah, great scramble from everybody else. Some going left, some going right, and some just kind of maybe waiting a little more on corner entry with Brian Son that somehow worked his way through there. As this is looking, I think that's Cosgrove holding up Frisch for the moment.
Cosgrove actually just went by Frisch, so Frisch is slipping back to the 6th position in class, 12th overall. But Frisch is notorious for taking it really easy. I run a lot of oval with him, and primarily in the 87 series, and you got to save a lot of tire in that series, and he's probably doing the same thing here. We saw him come on late in the sprint race to join a battle late in the race, so he's probably just keeping the tires under that thing and trying to keep his Audi in clean shape here as they go down the long back straightaway heading to turn number 12. And you'll know if he's just saving, if he doesn't make a move here on Cosgrove. He's just going to save some fuel here, ride in the slipstream, and does he make a move?
He's thinking about it. He pulls out a line, but I think he's just letting you know, hey, I'm here. If you make a mistake, I'm going to take it.
Yeah, he's just saving the tires on that thing for now. So expect Frisch to start making his way up through the field here as the tires get a little bit older on the cars ahead of him.
I kind of find it a little bit funny that you mentioned, he's staying behind him to keep the tires fresh, and then you mentioned your oval experience with the guy, where typically when you're not the first car in line, that's when you are wearing your tires a little bit more. So definitely a tale of two worlds between the oval and the roadside as we continue on here, and these guys just going to continue to work their battle until we come back. But these guys are just having some fun out there.
Yeah, they're just biding their time right now. Unfortunately for these guys, you're not turning as much on a road course at once. The ovals have a lot longer corners, but there's more corners on road courses. So, of course, as you all know, but the same premise applies. You want to keep the rear tires on these cars here. And what we mean by that is we have more trouble. That's in the front of us. And Nice. What in the world happened here? So we're going.
That was a crazy spin.
It's going into turn 12. He was looking underneath. I believe that was Dan McDonald in the 73, and McDonald just didn't really give him the corner.
Yeah, the thing that I think made that worse than it was Nice just full throttle trying to get the back end.
Get a replay.
Come around, and here's a look. A little bit of a wiggle there to the inside. I don't know how defensive that was. And we'd have to see it from many different angles, and that's why they have stewards in the series to kind of determine fault. You had kind of the block from the lead car, and then maybe a little bit too much of a send there at the end. But I think that kind of the big thing for both of the drivers that were involved there is you're only 10 minutes into an hour-long race. What are you trying to do with a move like that?
Yeah, sometimes you want to make the move so bad, but you got to have your inner conscience there to tell you it's a long race. You can, let me just save this, keep the tires on it, and maybe get there another time. But we look back here. This is the battle for the GT3 lead. Michael Gonzalez in the Mercedes, Nate Stewart in the BMW. And Stewart was very strong in the beginning part of the sprint race. We saw his tires fade a little bit as the heat went on. But maybe tale of two tapes here for Stewart in this race, looking to kind of keep the tires on it for this run and stay up towards the front. But these guys have a pretty sizable lead over third place in Taylor Carroll. So it's a 2-horse pony show at the dog race right now, as our buddy Travis Brown likes to say. But these guys putting on a pretty good show for the lead for GT. There you see Taylor Carroll just out of frame there in that purple Porsche, the 420. Again, he had a good showing in the sprint race, so he's looking to kind of keep the tires on that one there. As we have another update, Gary Freeman in the 666. We saw him have a little bit of a trouble to start this race, and significant damage to the Ferrari in the pit road right now, as Dan Neese is disconnected from the race.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things for him where he's just so frustrated with himself, not in the right mindset to continue on, and to compound that, when you lose the draft, if not, multiple, tens and tens of seconds like he did with his spin, it just makes it so hard to recover. You have to pull off some kind of miracle on strategy, and especially without a safety car, you're not going to get that.
Yeah, and he just looked like he pulled the old Alt F4 on us, and
Justin Robichaux into the tire barriers. So he lost the back end, and he didn't hit it hard. Brian Son around as well. What is happening right now?
I don't know, but Robichaux looked like he had another date with those sausage curbs, as I was talking about when we saw Ryan Andrew go around earlier.
This is a battle for the lead. McDonald has gotten by Reynolds, and Reynolds trying to fight back. He's the second car in line there, right behind him, and he's just peeking.
Going down into turn number 12 right here. They got to deal with the lap traffic there. That's the 63 of Ryan Pandisio. They get around him. Reynolds trying to get the run off the corner. And they are just now starting to hit the tail end of this GT3 traffic right now. You got Justin Robichaux, who we just mentioned, with the troubles early. They're coming up on him as well. They duck underneath. Reynolds using the slipstream. Not going to make the move, though. He's just going to fall in line.
Very wide exit there from McDonald's. Reynolds wants the crossover. A little curb contact there for McDonald, but he's able to get a solid enough launch to there, and then continues to work his way around. Wiggle there from Reynolds, but he keeps it under him, and he keeps the foot down, so he continues and just tries to find the opportunity, but he knows he's got plenty of time to do it, and I think for him, worst case, he just makes the move on pit road.
We do have one pit stop in this race that these guys have to make if you're new to the series, so you got to pit at least once to get as many laps into this thing as you can, and Reynolds has too much of a run. He can't let this move go. Goes to the outside. McDonald protects to the inside. Reynolds is going to have to drive it in deep to make the move stick. He'll be forced off, so McDonald fends him off that time, but we got a long way to go to keep that lead from a guy like Blake Reynolds. So right now, McDonald working his way through the S's, but he's still got a wing full of Blake Reynolds.
A move like that kind of reminds me of the time that IndyCar ran here, where they didn't have track limits the first time around, and you saw drivers running that far off the track to try to make a move and get something done, especially early on in the race. I think we saw like 6 wide through turn 1, it felt like.
I mean, if this, however wide a track is, these guys are going to try to use every inch of it, as Reynolds fakes to the inside there. Had a little bit of fun with McDonald. He goes to the outside in the corner. Now he's going to try to get the run off. He hits the curb a little bit. That'll upset the car on exit. Blake probably kicking himself for that, but still 3 cars up the front, and here comes Raxter, ducks to the inside on Reynolds for second.
Yeah, and these guys, I think the battling up front there for McDonald and Reynolds really opened the door for Raxter to get right back up, and now Raxter got the position, and McDonald, the cars look almost identical. It's hard to keep them straight, but that was Raxter that ran wide, and that was a very late lunge.
Here's Josh Clog in there as well. He joins this battle, so we got a 4-car battle for the race lead here overall, so it's definitely not over between all these guys. McDonald gets through the lap traffic, Raxter right behind him, and Reynolds and Clog follow suit, so any one of these guys could make a big move and get the lead here at some point.
So Nice has officially disconnected. He will take 6th in the prototype category. Right now, you see your front 4 all right there, line astern, and just a little bit back there is the 5th place car of Frisch, and fortunately not in this fight for the moment, about 3 seconds or so off of it, and these guys are just kind of logging some laps at this point.
Oh man, Josh Clog just went by Blake Reynolds on the front stretch there. Reynolds letting him go. He wants to get through all this cleanly. They're working around the Lamborghini of Chris Wetz right there into the S's. And McDonald's built a little bit of a lead here, about just over half a second here as he works around more lap traffic. That is that's the 005 BMW of Brock Quinn as they work their way around. So Clog looking underneath Ragster, so Clog looking for any opening that he can to get around these cars.
Yeah, that just shows how aggressive they are. You know, it's a long race, and they know that, and they'll work together to get through lap traffic. But once you're kind of on your own, you're able to battle, I think all bets are off, and they're gonna, you talk about give and take, especially in a long season, but at the same time, you can't give too much.
Definitely not. You want to make sure you're looking out for yourself as well and making sure you're not losing much time. You just saw on board there with Blake Reynolds from the 4th position, looking up at the lead. 3 cars now vying for it. Dan McDonald still leads this. Savian Ragster 2nd, Josh Clog 3rd, Reynolds 4th. And back behind them, Matthew Powers is back there in the 37. He will round out, not really round out, I guess the car is on track in the prototype class. As a little bit of a battle going on way back here in the Pro-Am class. Jake Fisher in the 184, Tim Brokaw in the 111 back here. As Fisher's looking to get by, that's for 15th in the GT class, and Fisher's going to get the spot there from Brokaw.
Yeah, fantastic pit of racing there. Something I've kind of been wondering is, as a driver, would you take it a little bit easier if, would you kind of maybe risk it a little bit more, knowing that you have only 6 cars in your class? So if you finish last, you're not going to lose a ton of points compared to, say, the GTs where you're in a 30-car field. You can be a little more aggressive, try to make those moves, and do everything you can to get yourself in the best spot. But if you don't, you have to realize, you're not missing too much. Do you think that maybe be a little more aggressive in such a small field, and that's why we're seeing these moves?
Well, I don't really know, because finishing last in anything is, not ideal when you're, vying for a championship. So it helps to be, there, because you want to be aggressive at some points and maybe get around lap traffic and stuff. But in terms of throwing dives into the corners early on in the race and just putting people 3 wide, risking everything early, as they're doing right here. But it'll be beneficial to just keep the wheels and your car, safe. You want to be there at the end, and then you can start making those moves. But if it were me, I would just try my best to kind of cling on to these guys, not lose too much ground from them, and just try to be there at the end. As right now, Reynolds, he was letting a couple guys go earlier, and he's trying to get back towards the front here. Looks underneath Raxter in turn 12.
Brian Son, by the way, has worked his way down pit road. I think part of that was maybe either for tires or mandatory repairs, but it was a long stop for him at 1:35, but he is back underway, and I know him, he is never going to give up early on a race. That Penguin RC Simulations car, really, just trying to get every bit of track time as he can, and maybe get a little bit of the camera shots as well, as you see his teammate there as Blake Reynolds up in front of this car, Savian Ragster. There's the look at of the 66 there, Blake Reynolds.
Blake is just cutting through this lap traffic, coming up to Michael Frisch there in the 58 Audi. Frisch and Reynolds are very cordial. He's gonna let him go there. And they're lapping. They've almost lapped the entire GT field. Ray Kingsbury, they've lapped up to 4th right now, and that is Ray Kingsbury in that class. So these guys are making quick work, as just behind them, they are going at it. Josh Clog there, we're talking about aggressive. He's by far been the most aggressive car on the racetrack in any class right now. He's made some crazy moves and all that. So look for these guys to be more and more aggressive. But we're just getting started here in the main event here. We got a long way to go.
Yeah, we got a long way to go. 20 minutes down, 40 minutes to go. 1/3 distance here. And between the classes, you have Dan McDonald up in front of the prototypes, and Michael Gonzalez there sitting leading the second class, the GT3 Pro category, and Jonathan Taylor as well. He's taking advantage of some unfortunate events around him, and he's up to the lead in the AM category as well. So with that, we've crossed 1/3 distance, so we're set for a break. We'll be right back here on FTF.GG. And back to the virtual circuit of the Americas, taking a look here at up to the 73 of Dan McDonald, who has kind of built himself a bit of a gap, and that's kind of something that's developed over the last couple of laps. As he's just kind of given himself a little bit of time. I wonder maybe if Blake Reynolds trying to just save some tires for late in the race, because I think now is a perfect opportunity to do that. You kind of save early and kind of make sure yourself ready to push. Oh, wow. There's some contact there around. I think that's David Bush and Marwan Mafta, maybe?
It looks like it. That is David Bush in the 32. Marwan definitely was involved in that as well, as he will go through. But I'd like to get a replay of what the heck happened here. Maybe is what we were talking about, trying to send it into the corner. I don't know, but I'm looking at it now, and Marwan just looked, I don't know if he was taking the corner really easy and Bush didn't know. Watch the purple car right there. He goes in there, a lot of contact, just turns him around. Marwan was taking that corner very, very easy, and like I said, I don't know if David thought he was going to be faster than that. Here's a onboard shot. Let's see.
I can just hear the sirens and wailing in the air, and as he tried to make that move. That was just absolute send, especially if, and I think the courteous thing there is he tried to give the position back. I'm not sure that he ended up doing it. Okay, he did, because that took a second for Marwan to get around. But yeah, very courteous racing there, and that's something that you really like to see. He admits he maybe made that mistake, and it was unfortunate to see, but yeah, great sportsmanship there between the two. Essentially
the my bad for that one. So back up front, though, if we're looking more at the overall lead, Dan McDonald has increased the gap on Blake Reynolds, so he is almost at a 2-second advantage now over Blake Reynolds in the 66. So I'm not sure if Blake is still just trying to save the tires there or what, but right now Dan definitely has had a firm grasp over this race.
Yeah, he's strutting his stuff, and really I think that they gave him the chocolate milk this morning instead of the regular. Something a little extra to him that he's able to push out to that lead.
Blake using a lot more of the curbs going through turns 19 and 22. Different lines for both Dan and Blake. So Dan is taking more of a wider angle through these corners. Blake is cutting the corners a lot more. I'm not sure if that's maybe done some undercarriage damage to Blake's car as we take a look from on board the 66 going into turn number 1 up the hill. Blake kind of cutting the curb right there, and Dan kind of stays away from it. So 2 different strategies for these guys, if you will. As there you see Blake all the way down into the red, and we'll see how he navigates the S's right here. So cutting the corners, have to be so precise, avoid those curbs that stick up. Double apex corner right here. And Blake is just making it look easy. I mean, if you drive this car in iRacing and pretty much in real life too, you know, to apply to that is a very difficult part of the racetrack.
And you mentioned just a moment ago floor damage. Let's talk about that for a second, because that's something very important here on the prototypes. You know, just that little bit. I mean, it doesn't even have to be hitting the big orange blocky curves. You know, the bottom of the car is just so sensitive here in the prototypes that it just makes it that much harder to you know, to keep the car under you, because you can just hit, you know, the rumble strips just wrong, and you might be able to damage the bottom of your car and lose some top end speed. It's that important here in these cars that you want to, you know, try to keep it between the lines as much as you can, but sometimes you have no choice.
I mean, even if you go off into the grass, if there's like a too big of a dip in the grassy area, you're going to do damage to the bottom of that car. And the bottom of these cars are flat. You know, there's no inner workings or, you know, piping exposed there. There is just flat metal underneath these cars. So it's very crucial. If you damage that could affect the entire aero of the car, because not only you have of course the top aero of the car, the bodywork, but the bottom aero, the air that goes under these cars is just as important. But right now, as we were talking about earlier, the lead for Blake Reynolds or Dan McDonald, Blake Reynolds was about 1.8 seconds. You've watched Blake shave almost that entire thing away, as here goes Blake to the lead.
And an absolute power move at that. I mean, he just came out of nowhere. We mentioned him just a moment ago, and he was 2 seconds back. And next thing we know, he's flying by, now going by his teammate there to put him another lap down. But yeah, just so interesting to watch. Oh, that's the 9 car once again, Cody Crosgrove. And he gets things pointed in the right direction and rejoins safely, stays out of the way of the faster traffic, and he's back underway. And it seems like there's a lot of Mercedes here, especially. And maybe there's just a cloud rolling over. It looks like maybe it's getting a little bit darker out there. Let's take a look at the replay, though. It looks like the sun might be shaded a little bit for now. The headlights come on, and yep, it just loses the back end. You saw the elevation change. She almost kept the perfect, pointed in the perfect direction. Unfortunately, did not. And you know, no harm, no foul there. But he works his way down pit road, and maybe he gets a new set of tires on that thing.
Well, it's weird because when the sun goes down, that cools the track down, which will increase the grip on the shaded area of the track. So that's very odd to see that spin. And we got more trouble.
And there's significant damage there as well. I think that's Gary Freeman who pulls off to the side. And
a lot of damage to that Ferrari. I think he's stuck in the gravel right there. Still hard to get out of there. He's right in front of the leaders. That's Blake Reynolds right there. He's going to try to stay out of the way. What happened to Gary right there? Same thing that happened to Crosgrove in the same spot. He just got loose, and he had to chase it off the racetrack.
And he's going to limp it back to pit lane. And this is one of those tracks where it's such a weird layout that the toe kind of takes forever depending on where you're at. And you know, you want to try to nurse it home and kind of battle up here. This is a look at the replay. This is what happened to Gary. You already see there's some right front damage. Maybe he just goes straight off, and
steering was just off on that car, so that's probably from earlier damage, but that car just would not turn. So tough break there for Gary, still going, but strategy is this is what gave him the damage. We'll see there. Just too much braking, lost it, and into the guardrails. So that's
one of those barriers you wouldn't expect somebody to hit. That was quite some time ago as well. I saw him work his way down pit road. We got some drivers at the front of the field, and it looks like that's McDonald and Ragster that both came down the pit lane, and
teammates
clog in as well. So Reynolds stayed out, and he's about 11 seconds now in front of Powers, who's second, but both of those guys still have to pit.
So Blake seeing second and third pit will probably force his hand to pit. If I'm Blake, I would more trouble here. This is just out of pit road. That's Ragster. Raxter just wrecked it going into turn 1 there. Cold tires or something.
Yeah, Nate Stewart as well. He just had a spin at about the same moment, but he didn't hit anything either. But that was huge because Raxter was right up there for a good portion of the early race. He's now 13 seconds off of McDonald, who he needs to try to find a way by, as they've all pit at similar times.
I'm going to be I'm paying attention to Blake right now. So I was saying earlier, this seeing second and third might force his hand to come in now because those fresh tires will eat into the gap that Blake Reynolds has created. So we'll see if he pulls off here. And no, he's going to keep it out there. So he's going to maybe try to run this as long as he can just so he can go as hard as he can for longer in the second half of this race. So just over 30 and a half minutes done in this race. We got a whole other second half. So Blake Reynolds setting himself up to go harder for longer in the second part of this race.
And I think that comes from the school of Ray Kingsbury and his lesson of just drive as long as you can to start. And then when you have to pit, you have to pit. That's what he always does. And somehow Ray always ends up pulling a miracle out of his hat and winds up, getting a decent starting spot just from changing the strategy up a little bit from everybody else. Speaking of Ray, he is right there with Fritschbeck behind him, and that's a dangerous spin there from Jake Fisher.
Jake Fisher again.
Yeah, we've seen him around a couple of times. They've picked up a new sponsor this week as well.
America's Badass Whiskey.
I mean, I want some. Jake, if you're watching this back on the replay, you can send us, the demo so we can actually give the product a review.
There you go. That's how we get it. But back to Ray there. He had a mirror full of Michael Frisch there.
Oh, and he's around again.
Is that again? There's got to be some tire issues or something. Yeah, he's going to bring it on in there toe. That's unfortunate as he disconnects there.
Yeah, that's just a rage quit.
Man. But back here, this is what I was kind of paying attention to, is Ray has a mirror full of Michael Frisch. This is what I was talking about earlier when we were talking about Frisch in the beginning of the race. He just kind of keeps the tires on his car as long as he possibly can, and then he starts going. So he has been clicking off a little bit quicker laps than Kingsbury has the last few times around. You got to think that Frisch is eventually going to be able to get around Ray here, as Ray's tires just not as much grip as Frisch's right now.
In addition to that, we're also slowly seeing drivers work their way down pit road one at a time here. We just had Chris Wetz, looks like, work his way down. David Bush was already pitted as well, as well as Crossgrove Quinn and Alexander Ball. So one at a time, these guys working their way down pit lane as Blake continues to work. He does now work his way down pit lane. Everybody's just starting to dive down.
Powers is in as well, so he pits from second. Dan McDonald, we'll see how much ground he can make up. Again, he was one of the first ones to pit here. He is easily going to take the lead in the prototype class, but the question now remains is how much of a gap will he have? Reynolds is going to be down and away, and McDonald is coming off a turn 20 down the front stretch, so I think Reynolds is actually going to be able to keep the lead here. So great job getting on and off the pit road by Blake Reynolds, as he'll have about a 2.5 second gap between he and McDonald.
Yeah, we've crossed the half-hour mark, now coming to 26 minutes or so remaining. These guys, I mean, it's so hard as a driver to, continue to focus on hitting your marks when the guy in front of you, he can't see, he's just infallible either. You can't, force somebody into a mistake, it seems like at this point. But there you see, up on the jacks for Ragster, yeah.
Wow, that's a second pit stop. So you got to think there's maybe an issue with that car or something, because he just pit a couple laps ago, as there's Frisch making his way down pit road now. He is the first of the lead GT cars to make their pit stop, so he's going for a severe undercut right now, as he is the only GT in the front half of the field to make his pit stop. So we'll see if that forces anybody else's hand.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch who dives down and who does not. Gonzalez, Stewart, and Carroll seems like they all stay out for the moment. It's just about everybody behind them. It looks like Frisch now is dropped down. He is out of his pit box, and he's back underway. And he's down in the 9th position, it seems like, in the GT class.
So he'll be able to keep his top 10 status right there, just ahead of Marwan Mafta, who is leading the Pro-Am class right now still. Is that 191 Audi, so very, very solid race right now. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see Jonathan Taylor's act. Oh, trouble! More
Spencer
trouble.
Ray.
Spencer Ray again. We saw him have a couple of issues in the first sprint race, so unfortunately they carry on into this race. But no, I was mistaken. Jonathan Taylor is the lead car in the AM class. There you see Jonathan in the 77, another one of the America's badass whiskey Mercedes.
Again, I want some.
There's a penguin on that car that I'm trying to wonder what is the main thing of that.
Is that the Penguin RC penguin?
It's a penguin. I'm not sure if it's the penguin, but it's a penguin.
They're just giving Brian and Penguin RC Simulation some love. We appreciate our sponsors here.
Well, there's a Makoni Setup Shop sticker right below it, so I'm going to assume that's part of the contingencies for the sponsors for these cars. So that would explain a lot.
So still Reynolds leading the way overall. McDonald right behind, followed by Clog and Powers, top 4, and Ragster 1 lap down after having to make his second pit stop. So that's unfortunate for him, and he's been in his box for quite some time. So not sure what exactly happened there to the 91, but unfortunately he is stationary for quite a while. This is looking at the 21 of Kingsbury, working his way down pit lane. I'm going to say Kingsbury. That is Matt.
At Kingsbury.
There in the 21. Yep. The older of the twins.
Yes. Raxter's approaching. Well, he's over 3 minutes now, just sitting in his stall. So some had to have happened there to make him stay there, but that'll effectively end his race, unfortunately. So that's a tough break for him.
Yeah, I think to an extent it might just be him at this point thinking, okay, like I can't do too much better, so kind of just park it, because it's so hard to make up time here, especially when everybody is so far in front of you, having to make 2 pit stops.
There's Ray Kingsbury, just saw brother Matt on pit road, so we'll see if there's maybe a similar strategy for them. And it makes you wonder, when is our leader for GT going to come in? Michael Gonzalez has just been out there the whole time. There you see him make his way through turn 15, and he's using up all the track limits there. So he's got to make it go way over to the left there for the big right-hander into 16 and 17. So there's Ragster leaving pit road finally after 3 minutes and 49 seconds in his box.
So yeah, for him, I think he's just trying to save some points if he can and hope that somebody in front of him has an incident. We've seen that several times as Gonzalez, yes, he dives down pit road. He has to get down to pit speed. It was pretty close, it felt like, but he's continues on, and he's down the pit lane. Stewart's going to inherit the lead for now, but of course he has not made his stop yet. But those guys have such a big lead on the rest of the field. I was surprised at how quickly it happened for him.
Very lonely is Michael Gonzalez on pit road. Stewart goes by. Taylor Carroll will stay out. Ray Kingsbury stays out. So we'll see how far Gonzalez falls. Jonathan Taylor's the next car behind him, but he's coming into pit, as well as Kevin Fanning in the 441 Ferrari. So pit stops beginning to happen right now in the GT class. So we'll see what Stewart, Carroll, and Kingsbury will do. But Gonzalez is down and away, and he's going to come out in the 4th spot overall in the GT class. So not too bad of a fall for Gonzalez. He should be able to inherit the lead again after pit stops are said and done.
Yeah, multiple drivers now working their way down. You saw Fanning and Taylor just moments ago. Frisch continues on, so he is up into the 5th spot now after he's already made his pit stop. So front 3 there in the GT class have not stopped. That's Stewart, Carroll, and Kingsbury. And it's just interesting to watch some of these guys climb their way back up, watching everybody else pit around them. But the battle, as it sits right now, at least, the drivers that have pitted, you've got a considerable gap from Frisch back to Kingsbury, and Gonzalez far behind as well. So they're really separating themselves out at the front of the field.
And keep in mind, Michael Frisch pit 2 laps earlier than Michael Gonzalez, and Gonzalez was still able to get out ahead of Michael Frisch. So it's about a 4-second gap between Gonzalez and Frisch. So definitely a well-executed pit entry for Gonzalez, as we'll see if our leaders will come through. Nate Stewart stays on the racetrack. So Taylor Carroll comes out of turn 18. We'll see what he does. He's going to duck it down to pit road in the 420 Porsche, and we'll see what Kingsbury does as well.
Yeah, in the pit road here, you got such a tight entry corner onto the pit lane that it makes it interesting. There you see Kingsbury all the way to the inside against that wall. It's just such a tight corner. You want to be fast, you want to be aggressive because the timing line isn't until after that, but you can't go too hard. You run into situations like we've seen at Daytona over the years where that pit exit wall is just so perilous. You don't want to have the incident there.
Our leader, Blake Reynolds, overall has a commanding lead over Dan McDonald, 7.5 seconds right now between the 66 and 73. So the race really is going to be between the GT cars right now. So we're going to see how they can do right now, but looks like we have our set of pit stops concluding, and we'll go into the last quarter of this race.
As we wrap up our pit cycle, we've got 20 minutes remaining. With that, we'll take our final break of the evening as we get set for the final 20 minutes from Circuit of the Americas. We'll be back right here on FTF.GG. Back to Circuit of the Americas, and while we were away, a major incident for Matt Kingsbury. Was running so strong and so well, and unfortunately now is losing positions and time just all over the track. You see him wiggling there, and he spins on the pit entry as well. He's now Austin Powers'd it, and he's got to try to go further in reverse, make the 7-point turn to get back to his pit box, but he was working his way around. I think it was turn 1 when he lost the back end, and unfortunately, I think the other car involved was Josh Klug, the prototype that got into him, and unfortunately caused his left rear toe link to be broken. So the suspension damage, unfortunately, going to take some time to fix, but up front, we still have Blake Reynolds, and this is a look there at Josh Klug, and some of the prototypes continuing to work their way around. Klug and Pow, actually, no, I think that might have been Ragster that was the car involved, but we'll have to confirm. But anyway,
we got an interesting race here right now in the GT class as we were away. So Nate Stewart came onto pit road and was able to get out ahead of Michael Gonzalez, who was the leader that when they went onto pit road initially. So a great job by Nate Stewart to keep that BMW out ahead through the cycle of pit stops. So that is big for Nate, and Gonzalez relegated to second with the older tires. So got to see now what Gonzalez will be able to do to get back up to the front here. But right up here with our prototype class, this battle is just now getting started. Josh Clogg and Matthew Powers. The other car behind them is, or ahead of them, I should say, Ray Kingsbury is Savian Ragster right behind them. He's not in this battle right now. He's being shown in 10th overall, 2 laps down to our leader.
The battle for the second position in the AM category as well between Brock Quinn in the 005 and Marwan Mafta in the 191 has kind of been heating up for a little bit there. Marwan tried to make a move moments ago. He does not, as this battle up in the prototypes. Really, I think that if you're Savian, you just kind of have to realize what you're in the middle of and maybe let these guys go if you're 2 laps down.
Well, keep in mind, we have under 15 minutes left in this race, so this is about when the aggression would ramp up a little bit, as that's Michael Gonzalez. What in the world happened there?
Did he have a disconnection issue as well? Oh, he spun it, and then unfortunately he's disconnected immediately from the server as well.
Wow.
With the championship implications, that's astonishing because he was right up there and I think he was leading the championship.
Oh, he got loose going into turn 12. Unfortunately, Michael Gonzalez, I hate to say it, but he does that quite a bit around here. That's a dead zone. Call it the Ganzu Alt F4, unfortunately, and that was another one of those instances. So, but yeah, I mean, if he would have kept going, he still would have been in second and got himself a solid finish. And I mean, we call it a good points day in racing, I guess, in layman's terms. But yeah, that is going to hurt him considerably for the championship. Speaking of a championship kind of a scenario here, Brock Quinn is trying to hold on to second in the Pro-Am class, but he has Marwan Mafta, Chris Wetz, and Robert Kenny to deal with. This battle is for position right here for 11th in class. Yeah,
Mafta's tried to make a move a time or two. He got the launch off of, I think it was turn 13 not long ago, to try to make a move, but unfortunately not able to make anything stick. But he is right there in line, and their battling is kind of allowed, as you mentioned, Wetz and Kenny to get themselves back into all those cars within about half a second of each other, peeking out of line. And that Cisco 191 is Marwan Mafta, and he fortunately can't get a move done there. He's now going to try around the outside, but still can't do anything with it. Double apex there back to the right, and he just tucks back in line. Have to see if he can't make a move either down the front straightaway or breaking into turn 1. Now he's going to feel pressure around the outside from Wetz.
And this is the first time you're watching one of our broadcasts of this series. You know, you see the ticker on the left-hand side. The different colors represent different classes for these guys. So the black nameplates at the top left, those represent the prototype class. And right down there, you see in the lower left-hand side of the ticker there, the blue class is the Pro, and the red class is the AM portion of our GT class. So that's how you can kind of tell those classes apart. But right now, this battle is very heated right now. Brock Quinn doing a good job of hanging on to that 10th position in GT, second overall in AM, but he's still got Marwan Mafta and Chris Wetz, and also Robert Kenny still breathing down his neck. And just behind them, Alexander Bell and Tim Brokaw. Those guys are in the AM class as well. So we could very well have a six-car battle for second place in the AM class.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch these guys. So they just continue to fight and fight and fight. And Taylor, I think that he is just kind of praying that he doesn't make any mistakes. The rest of the guys are just kind of waiting for one to happen. But still, Quinn, Mafta, Wetz, and Kenny, all those guys all in the same category there. As you mentioned, with the red AM name plates and number banners. And move there from Mafta. He was right under that rear wing, but fortunately, no damage there, no contact, and they keep things going.
Quinn got a little loose there on the exit of turn 11. Now that's going to let Mafta get the good run. They're side by side heading into turn 12. Mafta's got the preferred line. Is Wetz going to set up a dive back here? What is he doing in that Lamborghini? But no, he falls back in line. Mafta's got the preferred lane, and he is going to take the spot away.
Watch the crossover, though. That corner exit can be critical.
He doesn't do it, though, so Quinn will fall behind to move Mafta into second right now, and the two guys behind, Tim Brokaw and Alexander Bell, are kind of creeping up into the battle. There you see them at the top of your screen back there, just behind this quartet of cars here. There you see looking out back from the second place car in this group. Brock Quinn there. But man, I'm sorry, that's our leader Marwan Mafta there, excuse me, but man, this is a heated battle right now. Mafta starting to put some distance on him as Quinn got a little loose going through turn 18.
Yeah, Marwan works for Cisco, I know, in the real world, so he's representing his employer there on the car, so he continues. He's done that for a couple of seasons now, both here and I think over in Rallycross as well. He kind of taught me how to drive Rallycross, so couldn't be a nicer guy, and he's hoping for that second spot there in the AM category. He continues just to hold off Brock Quinn for that position.
You gotta wonder if the tires are starting to go on Quinn's car, as we are under 10 minutes now in this race, and Quinn's starting to slide back a little bit. He's got Chris Wetz right behind him, Robert Kenny right behind Wetz. So he's not done with the defending. He might have to deal with the two Lamborghinis behind him in order to keep his podium position, if you will, in the AM division.
Yeah, under 10 minutes remaining. With how long a lap is here, you might get 4, maybe 5, depending on when the timing cycles through for everybody. But these guys continue to run themselves out of time. Up in the prototypes, Reynolds has run away with it with a 15-second lead now over Dan McDonald, and then Matthew Powers considerably behind there as well.
Josh Clogg exiting the pits right there.
Yeah, that's his second stop. He was down for about 2 minutes, so unfortunately that's going to basically solidify him into the 4th position. He's just ahead by about a lap or two of Ragster. Actually, no, Ragster's back out there and running, so both of those guys, a little bit of a mishap might cause them some issue, but now Mafta, look at how clear he has gotten, because now this is Brock Quinn trying to do everything he can to hold off Chris Wetz.
I think we can officially add Alexander Ball and Tim Brokaw into this battle now. So we've got a 4-car battle, a 5-car battle again. This is for 3rd place in the AM division. Wetz had looked to the outside of Quinn, but couldn't quite get it done, and now he's got to deal with Robert Kenny in the 10 car trying to look to pass Wetz.
Watching these guys, they're trying to take advantage of every little bit of slipstream that they possibly can. As you see Wetz there in front of Kenny, and they are teammates. I wonder how much is Wetz just or is Kenny just saying, "Hey, let me by," and Wetz is like, "No, I want this position," or I don't know that they really have team orders per se, but there's always that teammate code of if somebody's faster, you might want to let them by.
I mean, you can't really do that now. I mean, this late in the race, we got 7.5 minutes left in this thing, and you want to try to get all you can, especially in terms of points right now. But Quinn is doing a good job of defending. He let Mafta slip on by, unfortunately, but he's still doing a good job of holding his ground in 3rd. But he's got the rest of the pack. As here comes, I believe that's Blake Reynolds, our overall leader in the prototype. They're gonna cut on through these guys as they make their way down. We have a car off right there.
That's Justin Robichaux.
He's a part of the AM class as well. He is 2 extra laps down from these guys, so he's not going to be any factor in this battle, unfortunately. Reynolds will go ahead and slip by Brock Quinn and sets his sights ahead for victory lane overall, and barring a catastrophe, if his power goes out or something, I don't think anything's going to stop Blake Reynolds from winning this thing. But this again, interesting back here. Robert Kenny looks to the inside of Wetz.
And as you mentioned, you can have something go wrong in a variety of ways. I guess the closest thing to a random mechanical function or engine failure from the real world to transferring over to sim racing would be, Cat knocked off the router off the table and the internet went down, or power goes out, or something you can't control like that. And these guys, I think that a lot of us have kind of felt those sort of struggles where something out of your control is what goes wrong and ruins your race. So these guys are they're not naive to the fact that anything can go wrong at any time, but Blake Reynolds continues just to pull away as he works his way down the hill out of turn 2.
Well, we were talking to Blake before the race, and his dog Riley was actually barking quite a bit, so who knows, maybe Riley can jump in there and just unplug Blake's wheel or something. But Unless something like that happens, Blake has a clear shot to win this thing. He's got a 16-second lead over Dan McDonald, and it's only expanding for every lap. Last time by McDonald was a little bit quicker than Reynolds, but he's got to be a lot quicker than a second a lap to be able to do anything with Blake. So just about getting ready to hit 5 minutes to go here as Clog is again on pit road. This is a third stop for him.
Yeah, I think at this point, well, yeah, I don't know, because he still have Savy and Ragster on track behind him. So I think he has to stick it out if he wants to maintain that fourth position as he comes to about 3 or so laps remaining for the prototypes. And it just makes you wonder, how much he's back underway. So
did he fuel the car terribly long? I don't know. It looked like a splash only stop. So that's very puzzling for this stage of the race to be on pit road this many times, especially when they all had their initial pit stops around halfway.
Yeah, so at the moment, still Reynolds from McDonald. He's got a 15-second lead there, and then 3 back to Powers. But Reynolds, I wouldn't say this race has always been comfortable for him, even though he's got a considerable lead now. Early on, it definitely looked like he was struggling to find a way to get away.
He really needed those pit stops to go well for him, and he definitely did a great job executing on and off of pit road to help contribute to this big lead here. And there's Nate Stewart. Speaking of big leads, he is your leader in the GT class. He has got a 13-second advantage over second place Taylor Carroll in the Porsche. So Nate Stewart was talking about executing on and off the pit road. He needed to have a great entry and exit to pit road to stay in front of Michael Gonzalez to keep the lead, and he did just that. And that is definitely what puts him in position to win this race for his class.
Yeah, so Stewart from Carroll from Frisch, and a lot of names I think they're kind of rising their way to the top of the not only the standings, but just to the forefront of these broadcasts. We seem to be calling kind of some of the same names week after week in the series, and it kind of is fun to see, because even though we might say the same Stewart or Carroll or Kingsbury several times, it's always somebody else that's leading the group. So Stewart up in front today in the 04, and he's got about a 15-second lead, so he's comfortable there. But there's some fierce battles here that are kind of winding themselves down as we get closer and closer to the end of the race.
And this is all in the AM division here, as we see a couple of prototypes try to make their way through right back here. That is Savian Ragster in the prototype, going to easily get by these guys, but Brock Quinn was just overtaken by Robert Kenny, and Quinn has a good run on him down going into turn number 12. Is he going to look to make the move up the inside? He's glancing at it, thinking about it, falls back in line. So Kenny move him into the third position overall in the AM division. Quinn looked to the inside, but I just think Kenny's got a little bit better tire grip in that Lamborghini, and he's going to start pulling away here in a little bit.
These guys are battling for P2 overall. This is McDonald's and Powers, and they've swapped the position a couple of times, as you've seen within the last couple of corners. Looks like Matt Kingsbury had himself an incident off screen, but these guys continuing just to work their way around. And after an hour of racing, a pit stop in there as well, and they're still nose to tail. These guys are very comfortable racing around each other, because they kind of have to be at this point.
Powers with the light green side mirrors on that car. McDonald with the pink/purple side mirrors. They can tell those cars apart, but Power is definitely the quicker of the two. Power's and McDonald going to throw it into turn 1, lock the brakes up, just to make that battle interesting, as Powers will sneak on by. McDonald will fall back to third, but this is pretty much the only battle we got going on in the prototype division here, as Blake Reynolds is just gone with a 20-second lead over Matthew Powers. But this battle right here just seems like it's heating up. Brock Quinn is just fighting for his life back here in this class. He's gotten passed by Robert Kenny, and now Chris Wetz is looking to make the move as Kenny is going to get spun.
He's got to reach, oh man, right across everybody else.
Wow.
Everybody was fortunate to get through that one clean.
And Quinn's going to get by all of them. Well, Wetz is going to still be on the inside line here, but what an evasive job by all those guys, especially Quinn. It happened right in front of him, and he nearly got clipped by the spinning car coming across the racetrack. So great job by all those guys. Got to go replay that if we can at some point, Zach. But man, that was a moment.
I was surprised to see them split the car like that. You had one dive to the inside, one run way off the track to the outside. But these guys, they kind of just wiped the sweat off their brow after that one, and they continued on, and they're still battling for position here as they come to take the white flag. I think they'll get it this time by. As here comes
Yes.
Blake Reynolds across the line. Here it is for the final time.
Final lap, 1 lap to go for Blake Reynolds. An absolutely dominating second half of this race for Blake. Got in and out of the pits effectively, no issues, and it's been clean sailing for Blake unless the lap cars form a wall in front of him and he just runs into it. I don't think anything's going to stop Blake from taking home a W in this one.
Yeah, he's got a considerable lead, as does Stewart in the GT category. Jonathan Taylor's got a pretty nice lead back to Marwan Mafta. So all 3 class wins seem to be figured out for the time being, as they continue to work their way around. A little bit of a peek to the inside there, nothing comes of it, and a big wiggle there as they come across the start-finish line for what should be the checkered flag next time by. What will be the checkered flag next time by. These guys getting set to just battle things out for the last time around here in Austin.
And Brock Quinn and that black, white, and red BMW back there, he is just using up whatever grip he has left in the rear tires. You saw him get really loose there out of turn 20, trying to fight off the lunge from Tim Brokaw back there. But good showing for him still. He's on his way to a top 20 finish. And in this race, it's very, very difficult to be consistent in these cars, especially at a track like COTA with so many technical corners. But as we've seen in these races, just to finish this race in one piece and have the car look as clean as that 005 does, that's a very good overall day. So I think Brock will be happy with that. And to bring that car home cleanly is, speaking of bring a car home, Blake Reynolds works his way through the final 2 corners, and it's going to be smooth sailing for him as he heads to the checker.
1 corner to go, navigates it cleanly, climbs the hill, a little bit of flash of the headlights, and he takes the checkered flag. Blake Reynolds wins once again now from Circuit of the Americas. So fantastic bit of racing from him as he continues to work his way now to victory lane. Just a matter of moments, we'll have our post-race interview, but we've got still some fantastic battles going on. Nate Stewart, he's got about half a lap remaining here for his for him to get back to the checkered flag. Did something happen? No, Kevin Fanning. Okay, he was lapped on that final lap, so his race is over. But just about everything back behind is starting to wrap things up. Jonathan Taylor did get lapped on his final lap, so he never took the white. He did take the checkered, and he's going to take the AM category win. Have to see if Nate might be low on fuel here. I think he's got enough to get back to...
He is very slow working through the last couple corners here. I think he should have enough, though. I don't think Nate would blow fuel enough to where he doesn't finish.
He's racing around only in 4th gear there going into that corner. Very late shift as well.
He should be fine.
Yeah, from here he's got plenty enough of a gap that he can work his way around. So Blake Reynolds wins in the prototypes. Nate Stewart takes the GT overall and pro category win, and Jonathan Taylor gets the win down in the AM class as well. And with that, we'll step aside for a short break and come back with your results as well as your post-race interviews. And back to Circuit of the Americas, where Blake Reynolds was the winner here in the SimCAR Penguin RC Challenge. And there you see it, Blake Reynolds, 25-second victory, commanding win for him over Matthew Powers and Dan McDonald. And Josh Clark and Savian Ragstor wrapped up the top 5 in the prototype category. Your winner in the GTs was Nate Stewart, and he was over Taylor Carroll and Michael Frisch, Ray Kingsbury, and Kevin Fanning.
Looking down 11th through 20th, Jonathan Taylor, the winner in the AM division, will finish 11th overall. David Bush will finish 12th. Spencer Ray, Cody Crosgrove, Marwin Mofta, Chris Wetz, Alexander Ball, Brock Quinn, Tim Brokaw, and Robert Kenny will round out the front 20.
And 21st comes to Ryan Pandesio with William Dunbar and Justin Robichaux, followed by Brisson, Matt Kingsbury, Michael Gonzalez, Tal Owen, Sajid Vitalis, and Jake Fisher, followed by Gary Freeman in the 30th spot.
And the last two, Dan Neese, we saw pulled off early, and Ryan Andrew with that spin through the S's will round out the field for tonight.
And we mentioned moments ago we'd have post-race interviews, so here they are first with the prototype and overall winner Blake Reynolds. And Blake definitely was an interesting one here tonight. And what was kind of the key to success?
Well, it just seemed to be another one of those attrition races. I was having fun battling everybody in the sprint and beginning of the feature there, and I even fell to like 4th or something, just getting through GT traffic. But man, it just seemed like everyone just fell apart and it landed in my lap. I don't really know what to say other than that, but everyone had a solid car. I just carried my solid car home.
I know that you have experience here from running in whether it's the eNASCAR side of things or having run here before. But do you think that kind of your on-track experience in just about any car kind of played into your advantage here?
Yeah, when we ran the Coke race here in 2021, I had to learn like where the slowdowns and off tracks were. So when Ray brought up the idea of this being like a World Endurance Championship style kind of off track race, I was like, well, that's cool because I know where all the slowdowns are. So, but it's pretty easy. There's very few of them, and there's a lot. As you saw, a lot of the paved areas were being used today. And it made the track grip really cool. Like you could run way offline and just make the time up. It was like you were, it's almost like there was a dirt, what's that called? A berm, I guess, kind of right on the outside of the apex.
Cushion.
Cushion. Sorry, Sean. Jesus. Other than that, I mean, just a good old race. Thanks, Brian Son, Penguin RC, and everyone for showing up for the SimCAR, and you guys for broadcasting.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun race to watch. And you mentioned a couple of your sponsors. Anybody else you want to thank here?
I'll thank Lance Nasir for not being here.
Theraflu.
Yeah. Apparently he had allergies. I'll apologize to Michael Gonzalez. I think I wrecked him somehow by braking too late, and then he spun out. He ulted forward right after I passed him, so I'm going to assume that was my fault. Yeah, I think that's it. How was the broadcast? I'll ask y'all.
It was pretty good, man. We had a great time up here, and Zach did his best as always, so it looks made you look pretty good out there, don't you worry.
Yelled at us the whole time.
Well, I'll ask the
that
booth.
too.
Like, what is your thoughts of this place as an endurance race? Was this like entertaining to watch?
Absolutely.
But at some points, you had people throwing it in on each other and everything, so it could provide, some solid racing.
I felt like it was very racy for the pit stops, and then it got kind of strung out. But other than that, very good race. We've had 3 very solid races. Obviously, I think Thursday Night Football came into effect as to why we had a little bit lower car count, but still, we were well into the 30s there. We had 32 cars, so it's a good showing for everyone, and thanks everyone for coming out.
How are you feeling, Blake?
I'm feeling better. I've had the flu this week, so I'm medicated. I got it right before this race, and made me feel a little bit better, and I was able to get through it. Maybe I sweated out. Who knows?
Well, hey, congratulations on the win, and we'll see you in 2 weeks at Long Beach.
All right, thank you.
That's Blake Reynolds, the overall winner here tonight, and I just gotta say, these, as he mentioned, just the way that the race kind of strung itself out made for some interesting racing. We'll get our GT winner here with Nate Stewart next, and Nate, congratulations on the GT win.
Nate, you did it.
Yeah, I did it.
What was it like out there? We definitely had some interesting racing at times, but you had a commanding win.
Yeah, it was fairly interesting to say the least. The sprint race was a lot of fun because it was all four of us on top of each other. I was just running the set the way I was going to run it in the feature, but I got to slow down in the sprint, and that kind of put me behind a little bit. Still able to finish second to Gonzo. Surprised myself by qualifying on pole, that's for sure. And then the feature, I just wanted to sit behind Gonzo and save gas and go longer than him, which I was able to achieve. I thought I was only going to be able to go one lap longer. I was kind of surprised that I was able to go two longer, and that was able to get me out ahead of him. But as you guys saw, I had some incidents along the way. I got to slow down early on, and that kind of screwed me up. And then I got torpedoed by a LMP2 car exiting the pits. But yeah, overall, a lot of fun. I don't consider myself to be one of the best GT drivers here, so this is definitely a big confidence boost, and I look forward to everything else, really.
Your Mission R crash from earlier today. You said you got a broken wrist in that as well. Tell us about how that affected your race tonight.
Yeah, I just want to thank the boys at iRacing for giving us an extremely safe car with the new Porsche Mission R. I almost broke the sound barrier, having a hellacious incident at the Charlotte Roval in testing. Throttle stuck, hit the curb, and bounced off the heartburn turn and got flung to space. I actually don't have a broken wrist, thankfully, but if I had a direct drive wheel, I'm fairly certain I would. But, I just got to thank Porsche and iRacing for building extremely safe cars and letting my iRacing model driver only walk out with a broken wrist.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun one for you tonight. Next week next race time we go out to a very different. You got plenty of runoff here. You basically have none over at Long Beach. What does that change for you? What are you looking for there?
To survive. I mean, that's really all I can hope for at Long Beach, just because Long Beach is a very difficult track. I've never really gotten the hang of it, and just keeping it off the walls, keeping it off other cars. It's going to be a very interesting race, to say the least. I'm not sure what to expect, but we'll find out in 2 weeks.
I was gonna say every race is an interesting race if you're in it, but
yeah, I guess so.
So anyway, as we wrap things up here, you win once again, and it's definitely in dominating fashion. Do you have anybody that you want to thank for getting you here?
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone that puts on this league. They put a lot of work into it, and I'm very thankful that they put it on, because I'm trying to expand my skill set, and this is definitely helping out. Thanks to you guys for broadcasting. Thank you, Sean Butler.
What did I do?
You're here. I love that you're here.
Oh, okay.
I do too.
I'm the only first 4 racing driver tonight, so I guess thanks to them. Well, thanks for nothing, I guess. All the sponsors that SimCAR has, Penguin RC, Maconi Setup Shop, then all of my sponsors. We're about to have a really long list here, and I apologize. Apex Action Photography, that's me. Rexford Engineering, Speed Visions, Digital Chumps, Mighty Mac Visual Media, the Core YouTube channel. I hope to God I'm not missing anybody. I have way too many, but I'm thankful for all of their support. And Yeah,
What was the last one he threw in there?
the core YouTube channel.
Okay, I like that.
That's Liam Brotherton
Cool.
doing some stuff. He's slowly working on it. Everything should be released here soon. I sure hope so, considering I just publicly said it. But yeah.
Yeah, just put the pressure on him a little bit. No big deal. But no, congratulations on the win, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
All right, sweet. Thank you.
That's Nate Stewart, the winner there of the GTs, and one final that for Jonathan to join us in the booth. Jonathan, congratulations on the win. It was definitely a great victory, and great to see you out there.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, no, it was it was a really great race from our side. Coming in without any practice, I love COTA, so felt really comfortable right off the bat. Tough going in the sprint. Didn't have my wheel calibrated, and the one lap I got in qualifying was deleted, so had to come from the back in the sprint race. Almost did the back to front challenge and came up one lap short, finished second. But we everything was good. I thought about changing a little bit, getting more downforce, but honestly, car was really perfect. If I'm being honest, thanks to Boyd Hogan and Jake Fisher for the awesome setup. I mean, it was super fast out there. So that was a great all the way around. That's 2 in a row for our team now, our Garage Oil American Badass Whiskey team. So excited to get to the next one.
Now we were talking on the broadcast about that new sponsorship you guys picked up. We had said that if we were to give the product a review, we'd have to try it. So maybe if your sponsor could send us some broadcaster samples, we can give a good word for them and give them a positive review.
Yeah, I mean, we keep winning. They got a good reason to get some free products. So I'll definitely put in a good word for you guys for sure.
Appreciate it. What was it like out there? Just kind of with how that you talked about your struggles there in the sprint, and you mentioned your qualifying lap getting deleted. But what was it like not having those track limits being strictly enforced?
I mean, it was definitely freeing. I think from my perspective, especially in the feature race, I really just wanted to try and keep it in the track limits, even though it didn't really matter, because every time I would try and kind of go offline and gain speed, the car would kind of bottom out and kind of react weird. So, and that's just kind of the way the Merc's set up, unfortunately. So, really tried to keep it inside the limits, but it was good to kind of have that freeing feeling. But the most important thing when you're running a race like this is keep the car straight. And that was really my goal. And I mean, it was nice for sure. Really appreciate it, but try to be respectful of the track limits at least.
And it was definitely interesting to watch from a spectator perspective. So great to hear that you guys made the most of it out there. Anybody you want to thank tonight for helping you get here to the victory lane?
Yeah, so obviously, like I said before, I want to thank Garage Oil and American Badass Whiskey for jumping on board here in the middle of the season. We have a great partnership with them going right now, so excited to continue the success, and looking forward to keep putting them in victory lane. Want to thank my personal sponsor in real life racing, Manor Lake Development. They've been really great partners this year, hopping on board here in the virtual world and real world. So I appreciate them. And then Danis Utilities as well, for their continued support. And then, like I said, Jake Fisher and Preston Pardis have been massive to getting me up to speed here and kind of helping me work out the kinks of GT cars. I love GT racing, but working with the Merc has been very different. So really appreciate them and their support. And I want to thank as well SimCAR for putting on such a great league. All their partners, Penguin RC, McConey, for the continued support. This has been a really fun league. Really enjoyed it so far. So I appreciate everybody's support.
Well, hey, congratulations on the win, and we'll see you in a couple weeks over at Long Beach.
Great. Thanks, guys.
That is the winner of the GTAM class here tonight, Jonathan Taylor. And congratulations to all of our drivers, all of our winners, and definitely a fun one, Sean, as we wrap things up here. Can't wait to see what we got coming up in a few weeks. What'd you think of tonight?
I mean, I thought we did pretty good. The race was pretty good as well. Had some awesome moments, had some interesting calls, some crazy racing at times, but overall it was a good, fun race here. So COTA not too shabby for this race, and overall it should be another fun one at Long Beach. We go from wide open spaces to just cramped and narrow at Long Beach, so definitely going to be a 180 for these guys.
I've got claustrophobia just thinking about it, but can't wait for that one in 2 weeks' time. And in the meantime, hold yourself over here on FTF as we got the Bar Visuals FTF Cup Series racing at Kansas on Saturday night. And to go along with that, we've got a bunch more races on the weekend. But until we see you guys in a couple weeks from Long Beach, that about wraps things up here for Penguin. We have to thank Penguin RC Simulations as well as McConey Setup Shop. Have to thank everybody that helps put the show on, and whether it's at the SimCAR with Reynolds, Blake Reynolds, Brandon Lambert, Ray Kingsbury, and everybody on the team here, as well as Sean Butler. Thank you so much for helping out here in the booth, as well as our handsome, super amazing producer, Zach Johnson, for clicking all the buttons that make this thing possible. But for everybody here at SimCAR and FTF.GG, we'll see you guys on Saturday night from Kansas.